Hello and welcome. A very good morning to all of you. This is the newspaper show and I'm Poonam Burde. Newspaper delivery has begun in most parts of the country now, but some of us are still missing out on picking up the newspaper with our morning cup of tea. For the benefit of all of those, we'll get you all caught up. Let's begin with the Times of India and what are the headlines this Sunday morning. The biggest one, of course, this is the Delhi edition. So the biggest one is about Delhi itself. It talks of the FIR that has been filed against Ganga Ram Hospital. This is for flouting ICMR norms as far as testing is concerned. This is the latest salvo by the Delhi government in a hospital row. Remember, several complaints have come out against hospitals, not just that are run by the Delhi government, but also by some of those that are run by the central government. The Kejriwal government in this case has gone ahead and taken action against the Ganga Ram Hospital. Another big headline today, of course, something that is going to have people of the country, experts, health ministry also, on the edge, is about the COVID tally in the country, which has now surpassed Spain. Remember, until 3 days ago, India was the 7th worst hit country in the world. Today, with over 10,000 cases that have been reported in the last 24 hours, India has now become the 5th highest in the world. But the silver lining, of course, is that we are still far behind Brazil and UK as far as the fatalities are concerned. The deaths that were recorded in the last 24 hours is 297. Another sad bit of information that came in yesterday, which is also a headline in most newspapers today, also in the Times of India, is about a pregnant woman who unfortunately succumbed after she was denied admission in as many as 8 hospitals for 13 hours. Her ordeal continued. Unfortunately, the 30-year-old who was in the 8th month of her pregnancy succumbed to her injuries. A probe has now been ordered. That is also one of the big stories that you will find in most newspapers today. Tomorrow is when India Unlock 2.0 really begins. What opens and what not is of interest to most people. Malls, shrines are going to be opening. Several famous shrines, places of worship, have decided to either limit their timings or not open tomorrow at all. Most of them are going to be opening. This one talks of malls and shrines in Noida, which will open tomorrow. Noida is, of course, part of Uttar Pradesh, but in the NCR region. In Delhi as well, restaurant, malls and places of worship will be opening. China-India Army brass tacks end on positive trajectory. Remember, yesterday was a crucial meeting between the commanders of the Chinese army and the Indian army. This, of course, is amid the ongoing skirmish that we're witnessing on the line of actual control. The outcome of that meeting is showing positive signs, that is on positive trajectory. That is the big story also that we are seeing in the Sunday Times today. Navbharat Times is also something that talks about Delhi. Remember, Ganga Ram Hospital and the FIR against it is a headline in most papers today. This one talks of Mareez ko bina ilaj ke lauta nahi sakenge aspatal. Kejriwal government has made very, very clear that no hospital can turn away any patients. Kejriwal has also warned against black marketing and fleecing of patients at the time of this pandemic. A bit of a silver lining here is कमजोर हो रहा है वायरस, मरीज बढ़ रहे हैं. The number of cases, remember, are increasing, लेकिन मौतों की रफ्तार कम, which means our mortality rate is still something that is a silver lining, even though we're seeing at least 9,000 odd cases every single day that are coming through. But the silver lining, of course, is our recovery rate, which is way past the 40% mark. Also, our fatality rate is not something that is of immediate concern as of now. Like the Times of India, malls opening in Noida is also a headline in the Navbharat Times, but in Gurgaon and Faridabad, those malls will not be opening. The state governments there have decided that the time is not right, the cases are increasing, and it is not something they really want to do. While we talk of places of worship that are going to be opening tomorrow, Amarnath Yatra is also of interest to several devotees. The Navbharat Times talks about Amarnath Yatra. 31st July से 15 दिन ही चलेगी. Remember, about a month and a half is what Amarnath Yatra usually lasts for. But in the time of COVID, in the time of this pandemic, Amarnath Yatra is going to be restricted to only 14 days. The 31st July, which is end of next month, is when it will begin. That is, of course, the top story in Navbharat Times. It also talks of Tamil Nadu and the cap that the state government has decided to put on treatment by private hospitals. Remember, Times Now had exposed how hospitals in Tamil Nadu were looting patients even at a time of a pandemic like this. Now, the Tamil Nadu government has decided that it is going to cap that price. It says Tamil Nadu mein तय हुआ कोरोना के इलाज का खर्च, which means now government hospitals, private hospitals can only charge so much and cannot fleece you or cannot turn you away if you cannot pay that particular price. That remains the big story. Of course, India and China and the meeting that transpired between the two countries yesterday amid the standoff at the line of actual control is also a headline in the Navbharat Times. It is a headline given the diplomatic relations between the two countries over the last few days. That has been a headline in several newspapers today. The good news is that from what we understand, between that meeting yesterday between the two army commanders, we are going to see a positive result. This one also talks about the same thing. Bharat Chin tanav kam hone ki ummeed. That's what the Times of India also spoke about, that the talks are on the right trajectory. There is a positive outcome that is hopeful to come out of that particular meeting. Because remember, over the last couple of days, we've seen several videos, several news reports that have come out that spoke about aggression by the Chinese army, by the PLA troops into Indian territory in Ladakh along the line of control. This meeting was required. China began by aggression first, but then they bowed down. They said dialogue is the only way forward, which is why there was a meeting yesterday between the two countries at the army level, of course. Those are the top headlines here. Also, Pakistan's Interior Minister Rahman Malik faces some very grave allegations. That is also a small snippet in the Navbharat Times. Pak ke Purv Mantri par rape ka aarop. Rahman Malik was the former Interior Minister, I beg your pardon. A US blogger has alleged that she was raped by the Interior Minister. She also leveled certain allegations against other Pakistani netas. That also finds space on the first page of the Navbharat Times. Moving on to the Economic Times now, some business news. The Economic Times, of course, on Sunday comes out with a magazine. It's a more in-depth analysis of what's really happening in the world of business, in the world of economics. Remember, the Indian economy, much like the world economy, has been hit by the pandemic. The subsequent lockdown in India, which lasted for over 2 months, has also had an impact on small businesses especially. So this is something of interest. India Unlock 2.0 begins tomorrow. So that is giving a ray of hope to several small businesses and, of course, to all those factories and construction companies and property dealers who have been, opening shop over the last couple of days. The cover story in the Economic Times magazine, it talks about the IT sector in the country. India's IT sector is feeling the pain of the pandemic, but in time of COVID-19 could turn out to be the best thing to have happened to it since Y2K. So the silver lining, of course, is what the Economic Times magazine is looking at vis-a-vis the IT sector in the country is concerned. It's not just the Times of India and Navbharat Times where the India-China meeting made it to the headlines. There's also a story on what really transpired in that meeting in the Economic Times magazine. India-China hold military talks on the border. But the Economic Times has not stopped there. They have also gone on to talk of the new world order in depth as far as India, China and the United States is concerned. It talks of when the world emerges from the pandemic, we will be waking up to a new grouping of nations and multilateral mechanisms. Remember, this comes at a time when the United States has shown keen interest to invite India into the G7 grouping, the summit, which is expected to be held post-September sometime this year. The United States said that the current groupings have not really succeeded in solving world issues. India remains a key and strategic part of the world order, and it is time that India is made part of the G7 grouping, a call that Russia had also echoed. So this article talks about the new world order, which could be emerging also at a time when US and China are really at loggerheads. The trade war, as we all know, has been going on for a couple of years now. This, of course, is the cover story in the Economic Times magazine, which talks about the IT sector. It talks about how really the IT services in the country have grown beginning from 1968 to where we are right now. Right now, in 2020, the IT sector is about a $190 billion sector with 4.3 million employees that unfortunately have been hit by COVID-19. It also talks of business models that are going to be reset and acceleration of digital adoption in the times of corona that we live, because that is going to be very, very important. Several people are working from home. That seems to be the new normal. So that is how companies are, of course, coping with what's really happening and how they can get back to work. Now, remember, beginning tomorrow, most offices are going to be open. The strength has been increased to 50% across the board. People are going to start coming to work, but it is going to be a challenge for workplaces, for companies to ensure that their employees are safe, their workspace is safe, and all of that is going to require attention to detail, of course. Shutting the door, opening a window is, of course, talks about the job losses that have come to the fore, unfortunately, because of the pandemic. Several small businesses, several firms have lost revenue, and because of that, they've unfortunately had to lay off people. But the silver lining here is that some companies that have been forced to lay off their staffers are also helping them find jobs elsewhere. So that's a silver lining. Several companies there are not letting their employees fend for themselves. They are talking about rehabilitating them somewhere else in some manner that they can. These are the top headlines in the three top newspapers. Let's move on to the city editions. Let's begin with the national capital. In Delhi, like I mentioned earlier, the biggest, of course, is the FIR that has been filed against Ganga Ram Hospital for not using the COVID test app. They flouted the ICMR norms, and which is why they're now being pulled up. The Kejriwal government has gone on the offensive and filed an FIR against them. Parveena now joins us for more on this. Parveena, we're given to understand that Kejriwal government has taken a tough stand. Apart from the FIR, Kejriwal has also made it very, very clear that no hospital can refuse any patient.
Well, absolutely, which we are seeing that the cases, positive cases in the national capital is rising each day, and hence we are seeing that, Delhi government coming with new rules and guidelines each day, understanding the current circumstances and situations. We have seen, Delhi government has been very, monitoring every central government and other private hospitals move in such a situation. Now that they have filed a FIR against Ganga Ram for not following the regulations which had to be is to use the app made for COVID, so that there is no duplicity and everybody has the data in a central form, in a body where everybody can say, because in a given situation there is a dearth of beds, there is dearth of tests. So in a given situation there shouldn't be any duplicity, and hence they said that the hospital has not been following the norms. But the hospital's version is that there has been some kind of misunderstanding, and they pacified the entire situation and the reaction from Delhi government, saying that it will be cleared soon. We have been doing it. It's just that the data of the past 1 week hasn't been updated, but all that will be cleared very soon. So we'll have to wait and watch if Delhi government will still go ahead and fight against them, or the hospital will be able to explain the situation, explain the data to the state government, and handle it well, because we know with growing days there are more cases, there are lack of beds, and hence Delhi government is monitoring every step taken by just not the state government hospitals, but also the central government and other private hospitals.
With those details, Kejriwal government, they're taking a tough stand. Whether or not they follow up with action against the Ganga Ram Hospital remains to be seen. Moving on to Mumbai now. What does the Mumbai edition of the Times of India hold for its readers today? It talks of good news, really. That's the headline that is in the Mumbai edition of the Times of India. Gap in discharge and admission number of COVID patient narrows. A sign of recovery for Mumbai, says a doctor. Remember, Mumbai is the worst affected city in the entire country. Maharashtra is the worst affected state. So any silver lining that the people of Mumbai, that the people of Maharashtra can cling on to is a welcome one. Kajal now joins us for more on this. Kajal, now Dharavi, like slum clusters, all other slums in the city have been a cause of concern for the BMC, for the Maharashtra government. But the fact remains that from 50 cases a day in May, Dharavi now has seen only 10 in the last 24 hours.
Yes, the numbers in Dharavi have been consistently going down for the past 2-3 weeks. There have also been several days when there has been no death reported from Dharavi. So it does seem that the pandemic is somewhat under control in that particular slum cluster, which had become a big cause of worry for the Maharashtra government because of the density of population. One of the reasons, of course, also could be that a lot of migrants have left from there. So the pandemic could also be controlled because now so many people do not live there in those congested areas. The other thing, of course, is that because of fever clinics and aggressive contact tracing that was carried out for the past month there, now the number of cases is actually going down because most of the cases were detected early on.
Right, the number of cases in Dharavi and in Mumbai in general are going down. That is the silver lining that the state government and the people of Maharashtra are clinging on to. Thank you, Kajal, for joining us with those details. Moving on to what the Kolkata edition holds for its readers today. As I mentioned earlier, India Unlock 2.0 begins tomorrow. Malls, restaurants are going to be opening. How are restaurants, malls, small businesses gearing up to do that from tomorrow? That finds space in the Kolkata edition of the Times of India. Restaurants are ready with glass partitions and virtual menu. Hygiene, of course, is high on agenda for all these places because in post-COVID era, hygiene has to be priority to make the guests not just comfortable and enjoy the experience, but also ensure that their safety of the patrons and, of course, the staff at these restaurants is taken care of. New market traders are also going digital to connect with shoppers because even though we are going to be seeing several restrictions that are going to be relaxed beginning tomorrow, people are still going to be wary of stepping out of their homes because the scare is real. The pandemic is we're still in the middle of a pandemic. So at such a time, to venture out of your homes is going to be something that not everyone is going to be comfortable with. So businesses, small traders will have to adapt, to these new methods. And that is what new market traders are doing. They are going digital to ensure they can reach out to more and more customers. But that is what happens tomorrow. As of now, surge in districts of COVID count after migrants return. Kolkata's share has dipped. That's the good news coming in for the City of Joy this Sunday morning. Shreshi joins us for more on that. Yes, Shreshi.
Well, of course, the migrants have been a big worry for the state government because they have been coming in from other states which have also been affected badly due to COVID-19. Here in the state, of course, Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee has made sure that all the migrant workers are quarantined who are taking the special trains to reach West Bengal. And of course, the testing to Poonam has increased here in the city and the state, which is why the numbers initially, of course, are surging, but also the discharge rate, the recovery rate has also shot up here in West Bengal, keeping a balance between the number of cases that are being reported and the ones who are being cured.
Right, Shreshi, thank you for joining us with those details. The silver lining coming in there from Kolkata as in from Mumbai as well, like we got you information earlier. All in all, even though India's tally is increasing with each passing day, we're now the fifth largest country as far as the number of COVID cases is concerned as compared to the world. We've overtaken Spain with our tally increasing in the last 24 hours. But the recovery rate, the low mortality rate and the fact that the number of cases from certain hotspot cities is going down is a silver lining for the Health Ministry. Moving on to Bengaluru now. The Sunday Times edition of Bengaluru talks about what happens tomorrow because that's of interest to most people. People have been in their homes for over 2 months now. Some people really want to step out because essential services have also sometimes taken a hit. Eat, pray, shop. Karnataka gears up for reopening tomorrow. That's the big headline in the Sunday Times of Bengaluru. Space markers at temples, hotels and malls, places of worship have decided that they might restrict the number of the timings really as compared to what it was in pre-COVID era to what we are in now because the pandemic is still on. The chance of containing the chance of the spread of COVID-19 is still high. The risk is very high, and everybody needs to work according to those certain restrictions that we're in. So even though India is opening up, these places like malls, restaurants and places of worship especially will have to be very, very careful of how they deal with this entire crisis. The Bangalore edition also talks about DK Udupi schools heal in quarantine. That's the big story there. It talks about occupants that are inside a school which have become quarantine centers. How Bengaluru kept its coronavirus count low. That's another top story in the newspaper this morning. Remember, Bengaluru is one of those metro cities, unlike Mumbai, Chennai and Delhi, that has managed to keep a lid on containing the COVID-19 spread in the city. This talks about how really the city and the administration there managed to do that. Deepak now joins us for more on this. Deepak, I want to know from you, teachers are now voicing concerns. Schools are going to be opening up sometime in July, but parents, students, they're not the only anxious one. The staff at these schools are also wary of how this is going to turn out.
Yes, and the main concern is, public transport and also getting to these schools. And at this point in time, even the teachers have raised their concerns about, the students coming back to the schools. Like you mentioned, there is speculation after the discussion that's going to be held that schools may open in July. But right now, it's the apprehensions that are being raised by the teachers themselves. So you can just imagine the confidence that will put this move will put in the parents, while the teachers themselves are right now worried about traveling to schools, especially because they are in various districts. They have to use public transport, and they're definitely raising their concerns at this point in time and saying, is this actually necessary?
Absolutely. We still have about a month to go before schools or educational institutions actually reopen. That should give time to the administration and to these respective organizations to work out a roadmap of how this can be done. Thank you, Deepak, for joining us with those details. Moving on to Chennai now. Chennai, of course, the Tamil Nadu government has decided to put a cap on the pricing that hospitals can charge you as far as COVID treatment is concerned. That is one of the top stories in the Chennai edition. That is also one of the top stories, as I mentioned earlier, in the Navbharat Times. But I want to talk about an app which is soon going to come out in the city of Chennai, which will alert availability of COVID beds across hospitals. Remember, this is something that the Delhi government has already put in place. Kejriwal government has put in place an app which tells you which is the nearest hospital around you as far as your location is concerned, how many beds in that particular hospital are available, whether or not you can approach that hospital if, unfortunately, you contract the disease. Chennai is also going the same direction. They are also going to soon come out with an app that will give you all these details at your fingertips. Keeping count also of how many cases have come to the fore from Tamil Nadu, especially in Chennai. The big story that they talk about is Anna University, which is mulling online exams now, because remember, in times of pandemic, like in Bengaluru as well, the teachers are really wary of how this is going to go down. In Chennai too, we're seeing similar concerns. Shabir now joins us for more on this. Shabir, we're given to understand that the Anna University is actually looking at an online exam for about 1 lakh engineering students. That's going to be a mammoth task, really.
Well, that's right. Lakhs of students are staring at uncertainty every day. They're hoping that there will be some kind of, information that will come out of Anna University, because this is something which is important for the students. The final year students are completely uncertain about their future, and they have been waiting to know from the university whether they are going to conduct exams, and if so, how are they going to do it? And now Anna University says that they have decided to conduct online exams. So they are expecting a survey will be rolled out, and they're expecting that at least 70% of students will opt for online exams, because they don't want to, come physically to the university or to the colleges to appear for exams. So they are now hoping that the students will agree for online exams, and they will conduct online exams. And for students who want to opt for offline exams, at least 30% students should opt for that, and only then they can conduct, because having so many students in the university campus is a huge risk. And that is something that the government has also said, that they cannot run educational institutions and they cannot have students in large numbers in universities. So they are mulling for an option for an online test now.
Absolutely, Shabir. Thank you for joining us with those details. We are, of course, going to keep an eye out of what really happens. Moving on to the world of sport now. For the last couple of months, all sporting events have taken a hit because of the pandemic. But we have seen football fans getting a taste really of what's happening this season, because we have seen the Premier League did start some matches. The Spanish League also was about to. But the important thing that we want to talk about today is Michael Jordan, who is going to give $100 million for racial equality and justice. Remember, this comes at a time when the United States has been marred with protests for over a week now. This over the killing of George Floyd at the hands of a police officer. The video had gone viral, and we did see anger erupting really across the country there. Karishma now joins us for more on this. Karishma, several people have made contributions to really the fight. Several celebrities have lent their voice to this entire fight of Black Lives Matter. Michael Jordan doing his bit there.
Well, yes, absolutely, Poonam. Michael Jordan doing his bit over there. Michael Jordan and the Jordan brand over a period of 10 years are going to contribute $100 million to organizations that promote social equality and social justice in the United States of America. We have seen widespread protests in the United States of America over the killing of George Floyd, and this is the way of Michael Jordan of giving back to the community that has made him the superstar athlete that he is, and a lot of other athletes and a lot of other important names in the United States of America have also come forward to help the Black community and to help fight racism in the United States of America. Another notable name being Serena Williams' husband, Alexis Ohanian, who resigned from his Reddit organization of 15 years to support the community. So clearly, United States of America getting together to fight racism in the country.
Right, Michael Jordan there doing his bit. Karishma, thank you so much for joining us with that. Moving on to quickly of what's making news in the world of entertainment this Sunday morning. Kangana Ranaut is going to be in a new role. She's set to direct and produce Parajita Ayodhya. That is the top story here in Delhi Times. But the big one is that so many factors are going to come into play while making films in the current scenario. That's what John Abraham says. And that, of course, has been on the mind of several people in the film industry, not just in Bollywood, but across the country. That's all we could pack in for you in this edition of the Newspaper Show. I'll be back with other breaking news and updates on the other side of a quick break. Stay with us.